Okay, for this video, we are going to look at 3 examples where you review how to apply the different algebraic techniques. So we're going to look at reversed operations, taking the square root, and factoring. All right, so the first example, we are going to do reversed operations. So we're just going to need to isolate sine of theta. To do that, we're going to divide both sides by -6. Okay, this will cancel out. We're left with sine of theta is equal to 3 square root of 3 over -6. 3 over 6, we can reduce that fraction as 1/2. And then just remember to keep that negative. And we can actually rewrite this in a simpler fashion by just having negative square root of 3 over 2. Now we need to identify our solutions. Okay, we're going to draw the coordinate plane. And we remember that sine is negative in the bottom 2 quadrants. Sine is opposite, so that's going to give us negative square root of 3 over 2 here. And the angle that goes with square root of 3 over 2 is 60 degrees. So, in order to identify our solution in third quadrant, we're going to take 180 degrees plus 60 degrees, and that's going to give us 240 degrees. Over here, we're going to take 360 degrees, and we're going to subtract 60 degrees, so our solution will be 300 degrees. So those are the 2 solutions of our equation. All right, the next equation we're going to use taking the square root method. So here, first we're going to add 1 to both sides. So that's going to give us cosine square theta is equal to, we're going to take -1/4 plus 1. Just think you owe someone a quarter and you have $1 to pay them back. So how much money would you have left? You would have 3/4 or 3/4. Then we need to take the square root of both sides, so that will get rid of the square, leaving you with just cosine theta is equal to plus or minus, because that's what happens when you take the square root of a number. Then to take the square root of a fraction, you're going to take the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. And then we're going to simplify. Square root of 3, can't really do anything else with that, but the square root of 4, that's going to give us 2. So we need to identify the quadrants that will give us positive or negative cosine. And that's going to include all 4 quadrants. Okay, so again, cosine, that's adjacent. So adjacent is going to be the square root of 3 over 2 on the right quadrants, and negative square root of 3 over 2 on the left quadrant. Okay, we need the opposite side to identify our reference angle. Since we already used square root of 3 over 2, the other side is going to be 1/2. So then 1/2 goes with 30 degrees. So in the first quadrant, our solution is going to be the reference angle. In the second quadrant, we're going to take 180 minus 30, and that's going to give us 150 degrees. In the third quadrant, you're going to take 180 degrees plus 30 degrees, and that's going to give us a solution of 210 degrees. And then finally, for the fourth quadrant, we're going to take 360 degrees minus 30 degrees, and we're going to get 330 degrees. Okay, so anytime you have to take the square root, know that all 4 quadrants will have our solutions. All right, our last example. And for this example, we're going to use the factoring method. Okay, so we need to find out the GCF. Notice for this term, we have sine square x, and then this term we have sine x. So we can take out a factor of sine x. if we take out a factor of sine x, we will have 2 sine x left. And if we take out a factor of sine x, we're going to get square root of 3. And if you're not sure, just make sure that you distribute. If we multiply sine x and 2 sine x, you're going to get 2 sine square x. And then if we take sine x times the square root of 3, we're going to get the square root of 3 sine x. Now that we have factored our equation, we're going to use the zero product property. So that's going to give us sine x is equal to 0, or 2 sine x plus the square root of 3 is equal to 0. We're going to solve for this equation first. So this is just reverse operations. First, we're going to subtract the square root of 3 from both sides. That's going to give us 2 sine x is equal to negative square root of 3. Then divide both sides by 2. So a sine of x is equal to negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so by now, we should recognize that it's the bottom 2 quadrants that will give us negative sign. Negative sign, and sign is opposite. So we're going to label the opposite side negative square root of 3 over 2. And we remember that the angle that goes across from the square root of 3 over 2 is 60 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to use a reference angle to identify our solutions. For the third quadrant, we're going to take 180 degrees plus 60, and that's going to give us 240 degrees. For the fourth quadrant, we're going to take 360 degrees minus 60 degrees to give us 300 degrees. So these are the 2 solutions for this equation. Now, sine of x is equal to 0. Whenever you have cosine or sine equal to 0, you need to use the quadrant angles, okay? So the quadrant angles are the angles at 0, 360, at 90, at 180, and at 270. And also you need to remember the coordinates of the unit circle at those angles. At 0 degrees, the coordinates are 1, 0 because you go right 1. The coordinates at 90 degrees, that is 0, 1. 180, negative 1, 0. 270, 0, negative 1. Sine corresponds to the y coordinate. So these angles that we're interested in, because the y coordinate is equal to 0 at 0 and 180 degrees. So our 2 solutions are 0 and 180 degrees. Okay. If you are ready to do some more practice, you can grab a worksheet from your teacher.